Hey everybody! We interrupt this regularly scheduled programming of the Plots and Politics with Corinne Straight to give you a get the word out because Corinne Straight has been busy. She decided she wanted to run for Elkhart County Democrat chair, and she went to the current chair to get on, and he used a rule that you don't have to follow to not even allow her the chance to run for chair of Elkhart County. We're going to talk about the rule, why it is an extremely silly one when it applies to Corinne Straight, who is very vulnerable and honest about her thoughts on on whether she's a Democrat or not. And we're going to identify how this is one of the biggest problems facing Indiana State Democrats today, gatekeeping. Real life example of gatekeeping with one of my best friends who I love so much, Corinne Straight. We're going to get the word out about her story and what you can do about it. Let's do this. Corinne, get us going, girl.
Thank you so much, Sarah. That was an awesome introduction. We were going to record our next episode of Plots and Politics today, but then this was pretty timely. So we decided we're going to do this because tomorrow is a really big day for many counties around the state of Indiana for the Democrats. The Democrats are choosing new county leadership ahead of new state leadership being chosen. And the people who are going to vote for state leadership are going to be those county positions. And so tomorrow which is kind of blowing my mind that tomorrow is March, y'all. Holy cow. Tomorrow is March 1st. I was just reading a headline this morning that we're at the halfway point of the legislative session for 2025 in Indiana,
wow.
Which that's kind of blowing my mind too. But tomorrow is March, and March 1st is a reorganization day for a lot of county parties. And I am in Elkhart County, and which is way up north here. We're real close to Michigan. I always say that, like, whenever Sarah and Tim and I talk, we're like hugging the state of Indiana because I'm up north. I'm like 5 minutes from Michigan. Y'all are a few minutes from Kentucky. And I have been involved in my party in my previous role. I was an appointed official for a municipality, and I took my position of being fairly nonpartisan pretty seriously. I was in that role for almost 5 years. And it was only the last several months of my work with the city that I started making more social media content and really started focusing on the Indiana legislature. And ultimately, that is what got me fired, because while I am a Democrat, I'm an unapologetic progressive. I'm a liberal. I have leftist leanings. And a lot of that comes from, honestly, I can credit the Christian upbringing that I had with a lot of my political ideology, because I was not raised in a political home. I mean, my parents will watch my videos and they are they are amazingly supportive, but they will be like, where did this girl come from? Like we just were not a political family, but we were a Christian family. I was raised in the Episcopal Church. My parents are still practicing Episcopalians. I have not been a practicing Christian since I was probably 17, but the tenets that I learned of who Jesus was and how Jesus treated people, I can really credit that with shaping a lot of my political ideology. And I remember I was taking Democratic political positions on the debate team in high school. Like, so me being a Democrat years before I could vote, it's just kind of always been in me. And because I was in an appointed role, I had never sought running for office. I had never sought leadership positions. I am somebody who, I'm a backstage person. Like, I feel like that's kind of who I am. And I don't know if y'all know this about me. I have an amazing secret talent, and I'm going to tell you what my secret talent is. I am one of the fastest quick changers that you know of.
You are. I knew this talent.
Yes, I have done community theater. I have performed on stage. I really enjoy that. But where I thrive is behind the scenes. And if I need to transform somebody from a butler with a mustache into a woman with a wig, I can do that in about 4 seconds.
You dressed up like a man.
I did. I've done drag.
It was incredible.
I've done direct bicameral
You're
bro.
an attractive guy too, Corinne. You're just beautiful no matter what. It just shines out of you.
It was very confusing for my husband because I look like my sons. So he's like, ugh.
I knew this about you. Girl, we met in person November 2nd, Women's March.
Yeah,
Corinne.
we did.
You told me if you could make money doing what you do on your TikToks, you would. Yeah. And then like several weeks later, I called you and asked you about Project Next, and you were like, yeah, I'm down. So I'm down. I know this talent of yours, and I get it.
I love it.
You thought of an idea, and then you went there in your head, and we're going to discuss that.
Yep.
But keep going.
Yeah, so that's really where, and I'm sharing that I'm more of a backstage person because that has lent me to becoming a television producer. I was a producer for a long time. Every once in a while, I would fill in as a host when we needed one. But I really thrive in that communications space, in the messaging space. I am more than happy to write a message, prepare a communication strategy, and give it to a candidate to go forward. I really feel like that's where my skill set is. And as many times as I have been asked to consider running for office, I just never felt like I didn't feel like that was where I was best suited.
But look at what changes you have had this year with
different person, Corinne.
And Tim Peck, I didn't even introduce you. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
Dr. Tim Peck.
Yeah,
the one and the only.
Yeah, I came on today because I had the opposite experience as Corinne going on when running for Congress. And so wanted to bring that contrast when we talk about the process of what's going on with
yeah. So thanks for being on.
I think that's really important context. So I'm glad that you're here, Tim. So yeah, I'm saying all that to say I've never really been somebody who has really aspired to run as a candidate. I'm happy to run a campaign. I've never really needed to be the out front person or wanted to be the out front person. And that kind of changed for me a couple of weeks ago. One of my friends in the Elkhart Democratic Party said, hey, I think you should consider running for chair. The current chair has said, if nobody else runs, he'll do it again. And nobody else has submitted their name. And this was the deadline to submit our names was just Wednesday, the 26th up here in Elkhart County. And so I marinated on it for a while. I talked it over with my dear partner, and because it's a volunteer position, y'all.
You don't get paid for it. It's a lot of work.
And so I really wanted to see if that was where I could be put to good work. And I thought, you know what? Yeah, I could do some good work there. And I do have a lot of support in Elkhart County, even though there are a few key people who are not fans of mine. I do have a lot of support here. And I know that I pulled a Republican ballot in May of 2024, and that's where we can kind of get into some of the rules stuff. So this has been
a lot of Democrats pulled. A lot of Democrats pulled a Republican
and a lot of Republicans
ballot because
pull a Democrat.
Main reason, and I don't know what your reason was, but the main reason my friends were telling me they were doing it was so that they could vote for somebody other than Mike Braun. Is that his name, Mike? Am I saying it right?
Yeah.
For Mike Braun, so that we could get a less scary Republican candidate in case they won for governor. Now,
and in my county, and we can talk about this too, we had a huge thing going on with Jamie Knoll. And so a lot of Democrats, people who supported me with, knocking doors, making phone calls with dollars in their hand, voted on the Republican primary because they wanted to kick out the people who were protecting Jamie Knoll. And so that's a whole nother. So
yes,
it was a unique year for this issue that we're going to talk about.
I wish we had the exact numbers of how many Democrats flipped in that particular primary. We were advertising. Tim was doing it. I was doing it. Jennifer McCormick was saying, don't do it. Jennifer told me personally, she said, Mike Braun's going to win no matter what. And I was like, darn, that's terrible.
I know.
And he did by a lot. But I get why they did it. And at the same time, it hurt Democrats, and it ended up hurting you because the Indiana keeps records. They can pull, certain people can pull. I have this ability. You can pull the records and see how people voted in the primary. They can't see how you voted in November.
Let me say not who they voted for.
Right. But whether you pulled a Republican or Dem. Yes. Thanks, Tim.
Because that's a rumor that goes around all the time. That
you're so right. Yes.
Yeah.
So you don't know which person you voted for, but when you go in the primary and they say, do you want a Republican ballot or a Democrat ballot, whichever one you pick, they log that.
Mhm.
And then the chairs of your county party can look at that record. And if you want to run as a Republican, but one time recently you pulled a Democratic primary ballot, they can use that as an excuse to not let you on their ballot. Our Democrat chair does not do this. Our
Mhm.
Republican chair in the county has done it many times.
Let me say,
So-
it doesn't only not do that, but has to go out of his way to write a letter to the state saying and attesting that this person is a Democrat.
Yeah.
And so you have to, it's not just, oh yeah, you can run, Tim, you can run, Corinne, whatever. They actually have to go out of their way and put their name on and sign a paper and say, yes, this person, I'm attesting this person's a Democrat. This person's done well for our party, for the people of Indiana, and we should allow them to run.
I did not know that. I did
Yes.
not know that.
So it's like it's an official attestation, and I knew that it's not been a problem before, because we've had other people in Elkhart County, pull Republican ballots and then want to run a Democrat, or pull a Democrat and then run Republican, and because of our primary system here, and because people understand how it works, it's really not been an issue. I mean, we've had people who have run Republican campaigns in Elkhart County or in the 2nd District to turn around and run as a Democrat. They just get that attestation. And that's where some of the gatekeeping can happen, because that one person at the top of the county party, they are the one that is in charge of making that decision. And so if they like you, they're going to, they're going to let you run. If they don't like you, they're not going to let you run, and they can kind of use it as a reason. And
let me say straight to what Ethan is saying.
Yeah, because I'm wondering if this is true. So Ethan
skis.
just said, I have only ever voted in one Republican primary back in 2012. I think the rule is you have to vote in 2 primaries to run.
So there's 2 different things going on here. There's running for what Corinne wants to run for, which is county chair,
right,
which is a Democratic office. And then there's running on a primary to become a candidate to run for elected office, popular elected office. Those are 2 different situations.
Okay.
What Ethan's talking about is what I had to do, because I was an independent and very proud of that for a long time, before, major changes have started to happen and started to align more with the Democratic Party. And so it was a statement for me to not pull a primary. I would make sure, I would even go to the polls and not vote. Just to fulfill my, to say to myself, I'm not doing this because I'm lazy. I'm doing this because it's an actual statement, right? So I didn't vote in 2 consecutive Democratic primaries. And so Adam Dickey, our chair, had to write a letter to say, Tim is a Democrat. Has the values that match Democrats, and we are okay with him running for Congress.
And I just want to thank Adam Dickey for not doing gatekeeping right there. That was the right move. You were a fantastic candidate. That's how we met. We wouldn't be having Project Next if this wouldn't have happened. I would never know you.
Yeah. And so this, what we're talking about here, looking at the rules, it's a little unclear, but to be a delegate or a precinct person, you have to have voted for, you've had to have done your last primary, just one, as a Democrat.
Yeah.
But the chair can waive that if, and I'm going to read it so we can have the rules.
Let's do it.
If you don't show a disloyalty to the Democratic Party, that's the big word. So you weren't doing this because you were disloyal. You were doing this because you were trying to, do some other action. In this case, vote against Mike Brown.
And I want to, that disloyal word is one that I bumped on as well, because so I had a couple of conversations. So Chad Crabtree is the name of our county chair up here in Elkhart County. He's actually a good dude. I worked with him. He's on the city council in Elkhart. He's a public school teacher here in Elkhart doing the Lord's work. I begrudge none of this against him personally. But when he called me back and said, hey, he said, because I told him, I said, hey, I want to run, but I voted Republican in May. And he immediately said, well, you're not eligible. I said, Chad, you know, you can waive this. You know, you can declare me a Democrat. And he knows what he's doing. And so he kind of acted like he didn't know he could do that. So I thought that was a little odd. And then he said, well, let me make some phone calls. I'll get back to you. He called me later that night on Sunday night and said his quote was, I've spoken with several elected officials, and we are not willing to compromise the integrity of the ballot by letting a Republican run the Democratic Party in Elkhart County. And I will also let you know that not only did I do this yesterday, the previous 4 days before that, I had an effing fever. And so Sunday night, I had a fever and I was not in my right place to kind of debate with him. But those words really stuck out to me.
Can you say those words again? What did he say? Yeah.
He said, I spoke with several elected officials, and we are not willing to compromise the integrity of the ballot by allowing a Republican to run the Democratic Party in Elkhart County.
I'm sorry, you are not a Republican.
I am. Can you all find something about me that says I'm a Republican? I am the most not.
I'm accused of being a Republican all the time, so you know, accuse me.
You are the most open
Our politics
and honest Democrat I know, and I'm talking about people I've never met in person, but I see on their TikToks and Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, could you be a clear Democrat? No. And
no, I mean, everybody, people call me a socialist.
I guess he was
closer to what I am than a Democrat.
I guess he was just comfortable plain outright lying to you. That was a lie.
Mm-hmm.
And that was that. Luckily, they have the playbook, the Democratic Indiana playbook that we could change to as proof for that lie.
Mm-hmm.
And I want all 4 people running for Indiana State Democratic chair. I would love for them to make a public statement. Would they change this gatekeeping rule?
And we're going to have them on our show at 3 o'clock today.
3 o'clock, we're having Derek Camp on.
We'll ask the question.
Ask that question. And I know I did. And I also want to say, like, you know, even though, so obviously my former boss, the person that fired me, is also very influential in our county. So I have no doubt, you know, that Chad and my former boss, you know, Mayor Rod, just kind of wanted to flex this power against me when they had the opportunity.
Definitely.
And I do understand that they are also not representative of the entire Elkhart County Democratic Party, because I have had several people from the county party reach out to me and say, oh my gosh, we can change this. How can I help? So I do have a lot of support here at home. But this kind of gets into this, and Sarah and I were talking about it a bit yesterday, and Tim, you can weigh in here too, of we are a 2-party system, y'all. Like I was just watching, I don't know if y'all saw the results from the recent elections in Germany, but there were 2 parties that prevailed. They have a parliamentary system. So you have like 10 different parties running. You had a more leftist party, and then you had an extreme right-wing party get the 2 highest vote totals. So ruling of Germany over the next several years is going to be very, very interesting. But when you watch a country like Germany hold an election like that, and you watch the tallies, there is a 7th party getting 10% of the vote.
Wow.
So, and the top 2 parties only got in like the 28-29% of the vote. So those 2 parties, that's how they are, quote, the majority, even though when you add them together, they don't even make up the majority of German voters. But that is what you can do when you have a parliamentary system, when you have a multi-party system. We don't have that luxury here. We are a 2-party system. And that means that within the spectrum of Republicans and within the spectrum of Democrats, we have to be willing to take that entire spectrum into our party. Because Tim has been very honest about this too, of why am I now a Democrat? Because they take all of us.
I can be me. That's why I'm a Democrat. I am exactly who I am.
Yep, I can be me. And so the part of that understanding that along that Democratic spectrum, we are going to have more moderate, more conservative Democrats, like the man that I worked for. Politically, he's honestly very conservative, and he's not quiet about that. But he is a Democrat. And then I'm on the other end, I'm a very liberal progressive. And so, but all of us are supposed to fit under that big tent. The Democratic Party is the party of the big tent. And that statement is actually written not only on the state party page, but on a lot of the county party pages. It's part of the mission statement. And there shouldn't be this idea of a purity test. We don't really have that luxury. What we need is people in leadership who are passionate and exciting and are willing to kind of push the envelope a little bit, because the coalition building that we've seen Republicans do, we could actually learn from on the Democratic side. Now, there is coalition building that happens more in their party than ours, at least at this stage. That hasn't always been true, but that's what we're seeing right now.
So, Chad, you reached out to him and invited him on the show.
I did.
And he said he couldn't come because
which makes sense. Like I said, he's a teacher,
yeah,
so
and
he's
he
working.
didn't give him much notice. But I'm just saying right now, Chad, if you want to come on the show so that we can openly and honestly talk about this, I invite you. I will not yell at you, but I will ask you why you said that statement that she's a Republican when we know that's not true. And you're using this rule to keep yourself in power when you openly said you would run if no one else would. So my opinion, and that's why I want him on the show, because I want to know I'm not him. My opinion is that he is scared of you and your power, and that maybe he doesn't agree with some of the things you say, which I have yet to find one human on this planet that I agree with 100%. I can work with lots of people. I think it's fear. I think that's why you were fired. I personally think that's why you were fired from your job in Elkhart. It's fear of this strong, powerful, amazing woman. And your power is just going to grow. You have how many followers on TikTok now? It's 70,000.
Almost at 75,000. I'll be at.
And then how many do you have on Instagram?
Today. I'm at like 20,000 on Instagram.
And then you just got your Facebook back, so that's going to grow. She's on Plots and Politics with Corinne Straight. If you want to look her up and follow her on Facebook, we got her back. I'm so happy. You're only going to grow. You're amazing. I am so blessed to be a friend. I get to call you and you answer and you care about me. I'm so lucky. I just want to go there for a few minutes. What would have happened if there wasn't gatekeeping? Because when I asked to be in the Harrison County Democratic leadership, I was allowed. I wasn't even asked. I was just given it, and then I took it. I didn't even know there was a leadership team. I was just, after I've been there for a while, they just invited me. So I even openly endorsed Republicans in the primary. I pulled a Democratic ticket, but I went public with it, and I ran for state house. So I have the opposite, just like Tim is saying. I am welcomed in my county leadership team. The Republicans in the county do what they're doing to you.
The gatekeeping.
Gatekeeping.
Yep.
I want him to come on so we can talk about it.
Yeah.
But now, can we just go there? What would have happened if you would have been allowed a vote, and then Chad could have kept on if he wanted it? He acts like he doesn't, but I'm kind of thinking he does. What would have happened if you went? Maybe you wouldn't have gotten the precincts to vote for you, or maybe you would have. We don't know, but let's assume you were allowed and the precinct chairs voted you in. Can you just tell us some of your plans? Because this is what hurts my heart, because I want to save Indiana. I want my daughter to have health care. I want my children to have public schools not being taken away and not being dismantled all the time. Can you just share with us your plans? And people in Elkhart, please listen, because if this sounds good to you, we'll let you know what you can do. Go for it.
And honestly, I'm really glad that Tim is here for this, because a lot of what I wanted to do here in Elkhart County is what I learned from Tim and from what you all did in Congressional District 9. So it's the bathtub model that David Pepper talks about in Ohio, right? It is filling the bathtub from the bottom up. We need to have a Democrat running in every single seat. Coroner, assessor, treasurer. I don't care if you get 5% of the vote. I don't care if you get 4 votes and it's just your parents and your siblings. I want Democrats on every level of the ballot. And I want us to flip some of our thinking from running the only benefit from running is to win. I don't care if you're going to lose. And Tim and I attended, an event with Jennifer McCormick a few weeks ago where David Pepper from Ohio, if y'all don't follow David Pepper's writing, go check it out. He's another state party legislator nerd like I am, understanding the power of state legislatures. He asked everybody in the room, raise your hand if you ran in 2024. Now raise your hand if you ran in 2024 and you knew you were going to lose. And probably 15 people put their hands up. And he said, you all deserve a huge round of applause, because what you did is you made sure all of those doors in your district were knocked on with an alternative message. And anybody who understands, we all understand advertising and marketing, right? We got to see that message 7, 8, 9, 10 times before it sinks into us. This is not going to happen overnight, but a Democrat running and knocking on doors, if we do it consistently in 2024, they might get elected in 2034. And so that's kind of the mantra that I wanted to bring is I don't care if you're going to lose. You got to be willing to knock on doors. I also wanted to make sure that people understand the wide variety of skill sets that are needed within a political party, because there are so many people that are like, I can't knock on doors. Oh my gosh, that terrifies me. I'm
right.
like,
that's
fine.
hard.
You're an indoor kid. I get it. Can you do graphic design? And they're okay. Can you send an email? Okay. Can you write a postcard? And so I really wanted to bring some of that energy into the party, and bring in some of the younger folks, because there are people who get disillusioned so quickly and then we lose them.
And think about your power. You already have so many people listening to you. A lot of those people live in Elkhart County. Think about I want to know how many people show up at a Democrat meeting in Elkhart. And if we get Chad on the show, we can ask him, how many people come to these monthly meetings? How many more would have come if you were the leader? I bet. And I want to know in Elkhart County, do they fill up the ballot with Dems? I hope so. I hope every single, it's not?
We don't fill it up, no.
I would think the chances, if you were chair, the chances of getting every spot filled up would go up a tremendously, because you're going to get the bathtub method. You're going to get all these people. And man, how lucky are they? I'm jealous I don't live in Elkhart County and I can't come see you every day.
We make these black and white, false choices all the time. There's so many different ways to move forward here. Invite Corinne to be your vice chair and work together to make it happen. Invite her into the leadership in some way to leverage the fact that she's willing to leverage 75,000 people who are looking at
that girl's got some power.
It's an incredible, amazing thing at your fingertips to have, to be able to say, oh, I don't want that. It's mind blowing that someone
mind blowing.
But not someone, but even the party would say, we don't want to leverage that in someone's way.
Yeah.
We don't want to embrace that. It's hard to hear right now. And, Sarah and I are doing this. Corinne, you're doing this with us, Scott, and we're inviting others to our table to be able to do Project Next. And we actually haven't gotten as much flack for it as I thought we would. That said, there is some grumblings in the background that you hear, and people trying to be a little subversive or jealous or whatever it is. But overall, the people have been pretty supportive of what we're doing. I think that has a little bit to do with being in Southern Indiana, where we are just like, they forget that we exist. So
they forget we exist up here too.
I just want to shout out real fast. This has been a really tough week for me. The grumblings that we got was an attack on me.
Yeah.
And I just want to say my team just supported me, and I can handle people attacking me, but using me to attack Project Next really got to me. And I just appreciate you guys, because it's hard, and it's good for us, because it kind of shines a light on why are they going after us. We're just trying to save Indiana. So it really kind of makes them look bad, but we are doing this. We're having this conversation right now, Corinne, about you, not because we dislike Democrats. We love Democrats. We are openly Democrats. We want to be on the ballot. We want to run for chair. But we have to fix the major problems in the Indiana State Democratic Party. We have to fix them. Otherwise, Tim doesn't stand a chance.
Yeah.
And Tim, we need to get him some power and send him to DC so that he can help save the country.
Absolutely. And that there was another kind of like light bulb moment that I had this week that I wanted to share with you, because I think we're all around the same age, and I think we can kind of all relate to this in some ways. I know that Destiny Wells has certainly experienced this. Part of it is, is her gender, part of it is her age, but I also think part of it is her approach, which is very similar to my approach. I'm going to get on social media.
Yes.
I'm going to say what I want.
Right.
And there's this idea, even when I was working within the city, I was one of the youngest members on like the executive team, but anytime that I talked about something that was even getting close to being progressive, paid parental leave, I was dismissed as young and crazy. Right.
I'm sorry, you're not young.
I'm not that young. And so it's interesting to me. What I find is that it's almost as if the moderates or the people in power interpret progressive and liberal ideas as something these crazy kids picked up in college. And we just got to wait for them to kind of grow out of it when they're 50 or 60, and they'll come around and then we'll let them in.
Nope.
But none of this is something that I'm going to, quote, grow out of. These are, I look at data, I look at what works in other states, I look at what works in other countries. None of these ideas are like coming out of thin air. They work in other places. They could work here if we tried them. And that is how we actually get to a more moderate approach, is we have people on the fringes pushing us to make some kind of progress. And that is interesting to me, because also this social media thing is something that's not understood. What are you doing? What are you, this crazy young person?
They attack
on TikTok?
Destiny for this. They go after Destiny for being,
because she's on Twitter.
open.
It's like Twitter's been around for like what are we on, 14 years with Twitter now? Like, it's not novel.
Destiny was the only one that I saw. I'm not saying she was the only one, but she was the only one that I saw on social media calling out Greg Taylor, who has been accused of sexual assault to many, many women that worked for him, under him, where he had power over them. And there's been an Indy Star story about it. And I'm just like, I was just immediately like, where's all the stories of the Democrats on their social media showing support for the women? We are the Democrats here. We support women.
Yeah.
And I am still continuously nauseated by the Democratic people that choose to stick by him. I am supporting the women. I'm choosing to believe the women.
Mm-hmm.
I know people that are friends with some of these women. So I'm a little bit closer connected than just an outsider.
Yeah.
These are strong, wonderful Democratic women that are really being brave and coming forward. I want to know, whoever the next chair is, are they going to quietly support people who harm those under them? Or are we going to be accountable and set up systems, which the chair gets to do if they want, to protect our most vulnerable?
Yeah. We'll ask Eric.
Yeah.
We'll ask Eric when he comes on in 2 hours.
Yeah, that's that's
a
good
my
number one question.
That's a good question for Derek. And I this is, because it does feel like we can be kind of like, we are on the precipice of something. And it's not, I even have the tendency to dismiss kind of what I'm doing on social media as kind of frivolous, but
no,
I'm not doing that anymore, because I don't want to minimize the work that people are doing, because social media, of course, has its flaws, it has its issues, but it is an amazing tool for us to use to connect. And if that's the way that we're connecting to people, is in 1.5-minute videos breaking down some policy decisions, I'm happy to do that. And that's where we can have the marrying of those two things together. I want your traditional approaches. I want you to tell me what you have learned. I appreciate the institutional knowledge of the Karen Talians. I appreciate the young energy of the Destiny Wells. I appreciate the outside of Marion County perspective that a Derek Camp or a Jennifer McCormick is going to bring. I also appreciate Jennifer McCormick as winning a state race when she was a Republican. I appreciated her when she was a superintendent Superintendent of Education. I understand that all of those things can coexist and we can learn from each other. But what we put in leadership has to be someone who is willing to push the envelope. And I'm hoping that whoever that person will be is somebody that is willing to say, we cannot go back to the glory days. They don't exist anymore. This idea that Indiana can return to the days of Evan Bayh, it's gone. It was great. He was the governor when I was in high school. Love the Bayh family. Thank you so much.
They weren't attacking our public schools then.
Yep.
What a time.
We're in a different world now. We're in a different world now. And we need the Evan Bayhs and we need the Karen Tallians, because in government, institutional knowledge is key. And we are definitely seeing that be threatened at the federal level with this DOGE nonsense, where we assume that all of these government employees who have been there for 20 years are just leeches. Actually, no, they are invaluable professional resources. We need them, but we also need people in their 20s to come in and say, hey, have you thought about Discord? Have you thought about Twitch? Have you heard of Signal, this new app? I just learned about a new app yesterday, y'all. It's called Signal. Yeah. Like we need that energy. And again, if we're the party of the big tent, it can't just be a platitude that we put on a t-shirt. It has to be something that we actually walk.
Yeah, you're so right. And Corinne, one of the things, there's so many things I like about you. We could do a 6-hour live and I could just talk about the things I like about you. One of the things I like about you is that you know you are amazing. And if you didn't, I would spend a lot of time convincing you. Anybody in the Democratic Party that doesn't recognize that you're amazing, there's an issue there. So whoever is chair, when they become chair and I speak to them, which I will hopefully get the opportunity to, I will say, look at what happened to Corinne Straight. What are you going to do to fix this? And I want to know their answer. Mm-hmm. I'm glad you put your name out there when you thought this could happen. And when you told me, I was like, well, that'd be really stupid if they do that. You're clearly not a Republican. That would be really
clearly not.
And I would say at this point, maybe up to almost millions of people know it, that you're not a Republican. I mean, the knowledge of people across the country, in the world.
I would go so far as to say billions. I'll say billions.
I mean, you had Leslie Jones on Instagram shared one of your videos. She's amazing. And then, yes, incredible. So your audience is just going to keep growing. So clearly this is a lie, but it's a lie that works. Mm-hmm. It will keep you off. I want to know, are we going to change the system? Tim, you're always talking about this on your Dr. Tim show. We changed the system so that this doesn't happen anymore. Are they going to do anything with the gatekeeping? Whoever is chair will have the ability to change the handbook. I've only heard one candidate say they want to change it and make it more inclusive and get out gatekeeping, and that's Destiny Wells. I'm willing to, if anybody else says it, share it. That's the only one to my knowledge that has publicly said it. I want to know, we cannot afford in Indiana for more Corinne Straights to be turned away. I've said this multiple times. Mad voters, people have gone to their county chairs and been turned away. We cannot afford to continue to do this. I am a precinct chair. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to Corden and I'm voting for who I think will be best for chair. And then they're going to go the next week and vote for District 9. I told them at our leadership meeting on Tuesday, I said, my biggest worry right now, as we're gaining volunteers on our monthly meetings, is that we're not inclusive enough, is that they don't feel inclusive in that one meeting and they go home and they don't come back. I said, what are we doing to make sure they feel included? And a lot of things that I do is I Facebook friend them and I call them if they want to talk to me. I give them my cell number. They can text me and call me. I want to immediately let them know I am there to care about them. So I want to know, what are we doing at the top? Because I have a fear in my county. I don't want ever to happen what happened to you.
It gets into this idea that we keep talking about, which is a fundamental idea for starting this company around groupthink, right? We need to be talking about this literally. Just if you think someone's heard it, say it 10 more times, right? That for some reason, you talked about, parliamentary system versus two-party system. This two-party system is like one group or the other. There's no gray in between. Yet Democrats talk about so much spectrum and gray when we talk about, our personalities, our identities. And so this exists along the political spectrum. This exists around people have life experiences why they might think one thing that aligns more with outside of our party than another thing that aligns with inside the party. Mm-hmm. Their life experiences inform that. The intersection of that makes them who they are. And if it falls in one party or the other and somewhere in between, that's who they are. But we need to figure out ways to take the lessons from all those life experiences and be able to reach as many people as we can. Mm-hmm. One thing that is really getting to me is because I've gone down a little bit of a rabbit hole looking at it. So there's a lot of Democrats, including in Indiana out there, talking about the DCCC, which is the part of the Democratic Party that funds and gives resources to.
What's DCCC stand for?
Democratic
Central Committee.
DCCC. I get the three C's wrong.
Committee. Is it Central Caucus Committee or Central Committee Caucus? It's something.
Something like that. Okay.
Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee. It's the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee. You heard Jennifer Corrick yesterday on our show talk about the DGA, the Democratic Governors Association.
From now on, every time somebody uses an acronym, I'm going to say, what does that mean? Because
what does it mean?
I don't know. Mm-hmm. I'm not good with acronyms.
There's one for the Senate too, et cetera. This is part of the Democratic Party that what they do is they say, where are the hot races? Where are the races that we should really support? Put lots of money into direct PACs and people who support races to put money into them to be able to try to win those races. I find it to be an completely non-aspirational event, right? So the DCCC is saying, let's find 10 races, maybe 20 races to try to win so that we can, quote unquote, take back the House. You think that if we don't widen the tent, if we don't think about this grayness of people, the life experiences of people as we preach as Democrats all the time, and think about that, we can't widen the tent to not win by 2 House seats, but instead win by 20, 30, 40 House seats, right? Where's the aspiration? What are we trying to do? Especially in this moment when leadership in the Republican Party, not so much the people, but the leadership in the Republican Party is hurting their own voters. Mm-hmm. In such a way that will be tangible, where people will lose their job, they will lose their health care, they will lose more of their rights, they will lose their money in the money in their pocketbooks. If right now we're trying to kick a field goal instead of get a touchdown, if right now we're trying to win by 2 House seats instead of 40, we are missing an opportunity of a lifetime right now. So look at your rural candidates. Like you said, those people who raised their hand for last election and said, I knew I was going to lose, but I was going to run. Those people have a chance right now if we actually put our full shoulder behind them. And so looking and supporting organizations that are trying to narrow ourselves to, wedge down to get 2 or 3 House seats or 1 or 2 Senate seats, rather than trying to really flip the way that we're running this government, is a miss. And so I'm going to be on the top of my soapbox talking about that a lot for the next 2 years. Because
And I think, Tim, I think the main reason people do it is just human behavior, and it is fear. I put my name on the ballot, barely got there in time to run for state house. Nobody wanted to do it because they knew we didn't stand a chance. It's one of the most gerrymandered rural districts in Indiana out of the 100. If I wouldn't have ran, many people in District 70 wouldn't have known about public education being dismantled and about what's happening with our energy bills and our laws with our energy bills.
Right.
And even though I didn't win, I did a lot of good in educating people. And that is so important. So when we act like we're only going to support the people that could possibly win, we are hurting millions of people from learning the truth about what our elected officials are doing. So we're doing such a disservice. It's okay if you put money to a candidate and that candidate doesn't win. That candidate uses that money to educate, inform the voters. And that's the only way we're going to save our country, our state, our county, by educating them with the truth, by shining a light on what these people are doing in the shadows. So we have to get over this fear. We have to get over this fear of looking like a loser by donating money to people that don't win. We have to change our focus completely on no, no, no. We donate money to get the word out to voters. So then when they go to the ballot box, they're more informed. They're less likely to vote straight party ticket. They look at the people and they know about those people.
And what Tim touched on of like what we're going to be talking about for the next 2 years, we have to be really, really appreciative and jump at the chance that we have to make a real difference in 2026, because what is happening right now, as Tim mentioned, it's not popular. President Trump's approval ratings are tanking. We have some Republicans who are already in Congress. I was watching the speech that Congressman Tom Tillis was just giving the other day on the floor of the House, talking about how his support of Ukraine, and we cannot listen to what Trump says about Russia. Russia is not our friend. And so you see some breaks happening. Now, they're not big enough breaks to make any changes in votes. They're still going to toe the party line on their vote. But some of that conversation is changing because these senators and these representatives, they don't want to lose their power either. Yeah. And if they are going to realize that maybe they're on a sinking ship, we just have a real opportunity. I made a TikTok yesterday where I was talking about, I was replying to somebody about the we have a regressive tax structure in Indiana, right? Poor people pay a higher share of their income in taxes in Indiana than rich people do. And this has to be a moral question. When I ask you morally, do you think a rich person's tax burden should be lower than a poor person's tax burden? Not political, moral.
Morally,
most people don't agree that not their tax bill, because of course, 6% of a lot of money is more than 13% of a little bit of money. But let's look at the burden, not the bill.
Right.
I had one of my biggest trolls who hates everything that I do on social media commented in there, now this is the kind of video I can get behind. I like this. And I'm like, okay, Wes, we're going to run with this because this is where we have common ground. I'm not going to argue with you on reproductive rights. I'm not going to argue with you on public education, but where you and I can find common ground is that the 98% of us who do not benefit from these tax policies at the local, state, or federal level, our power is terrifying to the top 1 or 2%. Our power is terrifying. And if we had even a fraction of the class solidarity that billionaires have, those people stick together, y'all, and they hate each other. They do not like each other, but they have a common goal, and that's just to keep getting richer. So they keep their eyes on the prize. Imagine what would happen if the 98% of us also kept our eyes on the prize. And that is why we have to include everybody into the Democratic Party. There are going to be a lot of disillusioned Republicans looking for a home. And this momentum can be something that we can capitalize on in 2026. And not only in 2026, but 28 and 30, and start getting much more realistic about the long game as Democrats.
Can I hit on Tom Tillis that you just talked about?
Because
this also relates to
Who
something.
is Tom Tillis? Who is that?
Yeah, exactly. So Tom Tillis is a senator from North Carolina, and so a swing state. He won his race. I don't know, what was it, 51 to 49, something like that.
It was close.
38, very close, and it could have gone one way or another. The hurricane coming through had a lot to do. Yeah, it was a really big race, and the governor became Democratic during that time as well. It was a real swing state.
And North Carolina also just broke their Republican supermajority in their state legislature by just one seat doing the bathtub method. They have an amazing Democratic state chair there in North Carolina. So they're a good example.
That's great. We could learn from them. That's amazing.
People like Tom Tillis, Susan Collins from Maine, Lisa Murawski from Alaska, and others. And even, dare I say, Mitch McConnell, who will vote against some things. So, Mitch McConnell. And so
I always want to say, God rest his soul, but he's still with us. Thank you, Mitch. Still going strong.
I don't like how he votes, but I worry about how he walks.
Yeah.
But he also votes against his own party sometimes. The reasons for it, very political, whatnot. But anyway, so let's focus on Tom Tillis, Susan Collins, Lisa Borowski. And I'm going to broaden this out to Indiana for a second. But these people are what are called moderates in the Senate. And I want to relate this to the very big fear that people have that we're going to lose our democracy. Our democracy is always at risk of being lost. And so we need to fight for it. But we also hear some people, and literally Sarah's gotten yelled at for this. People say, we've already lost our democracy. It's hopeless or whatever. We need to revolutionize, whatever it might be. We haven't lost our democracy yet. And one of the strongest reasons we haven't is because people like Tom Tillis, Susan Collins, Lisa Borowski, and I can say it, and whole bunch of Republicans that are in New York and California who have seats right now are going to lose their jobs unless they start voting against some of the things that are happening. So you're starting to hear them talking about some of those things, and some of them are going to have to start voting against, or they're going to lose their jobs. We also have that situation here in Indiana. I want everyone to pay attention to this. I really would love to watch this with you too as it develops. We have Todd Young, all right? Todd Young, a Republican, didn't endorse Donald Trump, and he has had a lot of kind of pro-science, pro-health, fact-based kind of legislation, and worked in a bipartisan way at times. He's also a really conservative guy. And so I don't agree with most of his politics, but he has done some things that have worked around. Because of this, he's going to be primaried in the Republican Party.
They're already starting against him with some ads.
I know Aaron Houchin is going to run against him, the person who I ran against, right? And that'll be in 4 years.
Oh,
right?
wow.
So I know that from hearing it within people in the Republican Party saying it. So watch out for that rise. As she puts herself in that position, and she's going to.
She comes to Indiana some, huh?
She's going to do that by doubling down on the MAGA message and other things. Maybe she should come to Indiana soon. So yeah, she just won't come to our district. She'll see the rest of the state. My point of saying this is that this will be interesting to watch. Will this man go really hard right to be able to save his job? Or will he see that his job is in jeopardy, in the primary especially, and start to float back to the middle and have some more votes, right? This is how our representative democracy works. We hold people accountable, even within our own parties, to allow them to say, okay, if they just go off all the way on a limb, they're not going to get the popular support to be there. And Donald Trump only won by a couple percent, and he barely had a majority here, right? So it's not a mandate for changing the Constitution. It may, I'll give it to you if you really want to, a mandate for doing various conservative bills. It's not a mandate for changing the Constitution.
No.
And the reason and how that plays out is because there are so many places that are purple that will hold it accountable. Will they do it right now in the first 3 months of the administration? Probably not too much. Tom Tillis is talking a little bit, right? But come in a couple of years and come in 3 years, yeah, they're going to have to keep their jobs. So
many more people are paying attention. So many more people are paying attention to politics than ever before. I'm getting new people almost daily on Harrison County Dems Facebook saying they want to come to a meeting. People I've never heard before, and they've been following all the stuff we're putting on our social media. So they're getting calls. These people that are in purple districts are getting calls from their voters. And this is a big part of saving and protecting democracy and then strengthening it later.
And so if you start gatekeeping, if you continue to gatekeep as a party, whether you're the Republican Party or the Democratic Party, you are going to, kick yourself and shoot yourself in the foot.
Yep.
Because you are not allowing the popular view to come in. And maybe it's not the popular view. And go find out what it is by having that competition. But that competition is what's going to keep our Constitution as it is.
Mhm.
It's what's going to keep our democracy here. It's what's going to give me hope that we'll move forward. And so with gatekeeping, that becomes a threat to our democracy. Now we have a threat because we can't have the grayness of the views.
Mhm.
We need people within our party to get bigger and bigger and bigger, to have all the views that we can, and then we will choose as an electorate which one we want to go forward with. And if we don't do that, then we're giving it to the Republicans. So stop gatekeeping, because you're giving the election
You're
away.
giving it away. And
You're giving it away.
I'm so glad you said that, Tim. And what I'm also glad that you brought up Todd Young, because the Senate to me is really interesting, because Indiana's not going to have a Senate race in 26. Our senators are not up in 26.
It's in 4 years.
Yeah,
presidential.
It's in 4 more years.
Our next presidential election.
It's going to be the next
Senate.
presidential election. And so where Todd Young is right now, of maybe not being quote unquote, as popular as Jim Banks is, as being kind of, a very strict Trump adherent, who Todd Young is going to be in 4 years or in 3 years when he really starts campaigning again, we could be in a completely different landscape. And the Senate is always so interesting to watch, because they don't have the advantage of the gerrymander. There's nothing that is going to happen when we redraw the maps that's going to make the Senate race any different. You got to win the whole state. And it helps if you actually come here. But
Dems are coming. If we do this right,
if we do this right
and we reorganize and we elect a lot more people into the party and have some leadership, we really have a chance of flipping.
And let me say, that 3-year thing, it's going to actually start in 2 years, because some of the people he's going to have to run against in the primary will be running for Congress, will be running for state, will be running for
campaign is going to, again, I mean, we could talk about with like just the goodness.
We need another episode about this. Before we end, I want to just throw it back to you, Corinne. And let's say that you're a Democrat or somebody that cares about Corinne and you live in Elkhart County. There are some things that you can do to help encourage the leaders. The chair is the main one, to do less gatekeeping and to maybe include Corinne in the leadership team, because here she is openly saying she would like to help the Democrats in the county. Here are two. Here's a state house candidate and a congressional candidate. Destiny has your back, by the way. I'm going to say a lot of other people have your back.
Y'all.
Jennifer McCormick's got your back. There's a lot of people that are supporting you.
Destiny Wells is a soldier. I'm not going to mess. She's probably half my size.
So you have a lot of people supporting you.
Literally half my size.
What can people do in Elkhart County to show support?
No, I think Destiny is half my size, but she is fierce. And the two of us together, I mean, holy cow.
You could pick her up.
I could pick her up. I could just launch her at people, right? I could probably I could curl her. I think she and I are just, and we talked about it before, she and I are very similar in some of the pushback that we get. But I would encourage people, if you are in Elkhart County, or if you are in the 2nd Congressional District, Elkhart County, LaGrange, Kosciuszko County, St. Joseph County, get involved with your 2nd Congressional District, your Democrats. We have a bunch of counties to choose from. I know that there are people who live on the border of one county, and it's just easier. It's closer for them to attend county meetings, maybe in LaGrange instead of in their home county, just for convenience. Just stay involved. You've got a bunch of counties to choose from. And then in Elkhart County, go follow them on Facebook. Elkhart County Democrats. We've got Elkhart County Young Dems. We have Elkhart County Democrats on Facebook. They also have a website, and you can get involved and stay involved on the website as well. And I'm also going to keep doing as much as I can to get out when future meetings are. And I want to say that I appreciate all of the support that I've received. And I said it kind of at the beginning, but I do want to say, I have no ill will towards Chad Crabtree. I like the dude. I think he is an excellent city councilor. He is also an excellent educator. He has been a longtime educator, staunch advocate of public education, a longtime public servant. I was so excited when he announced that he was going to seek the city council seat when somebody else was retiring, because I'm like, Chad's going to be great. He and I disagree on this, and that's fine, and that's okay. And that's where I want us to just be more comfortable to have these conversations.
Yeah, we're not going to yell. Like, again, Chad can come on the show. Yeah, we're not going to yell at him. We might ask tough questions, but like, if we could come to a compromise, That's what I want. My goal is to meet this man that I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm thankful
He's
he
lovely.
puts in the work. And I want to have a conversation and see if he can learn and grow, and maybe I can learn and grow from his point of view.
Yep.
And we could come to a place of compromise so that we can save Indiana and all these
Yeah.
Hoosiers hurting, because that's the goal here. We have to work together. We're all willing to work together. Project Next is willing to have conversations with people we might not always agree with and see if we can come to a place of let's save Indiana together.
Yeah.
It's on the same team.
I'm optimistic about this election in 2 years right now.
Me too.
Right now is an incredibly important part to build the understanding around how we're going to move forward. Are we going to move forward by keeping the status quo, keeping what we've done? You try to make that, keep that narrow focus and make it stronger, or are we going to try to broaden it out and make the ranks bigger and move forward as a group? And those are two different ways of going. Yep. And obviously, I think you know what the three of us think there. So
I'm sad for Elkhart that you weren't given the chance to at least let the precinct chairs vote for you. If you are a precinct chair of Elkhart County, you get to vote tomorrow. I really hope you use your voice and your power to tell them honestly how you feel about this. Because if Corinne would have been on that ballot, if you would have got to vote for her and she won, she would have brought in a lot of volunteers and would have helped fill out that ballot in 2 years. Now there's still a chance this can still happen.
And I'm still gonna, and regardless of whether I'm in the leadership position or not, I'm still gonna focus on that.
Which I think is very big of you.
Because we need it. We need it.
You're not going to be petty.
What y'all were able to do.
You're not going to take your own hurt. You're still going to try to save Indiana. And I think that's really honorable of you, girl, because you're incredible.
And because I understand, I understand that what I can bring and what somebody like Chad could bring of two very different approaches and two different backgrounds are complementary. And that's what I look for. I think that's what a lot of us look for in our spouses, in our friends, in our colleagues. We look for,
This is another outcome that could have happened.
Yeah.
If he would have let you be on the ballot, he could have won as chair, and then you would have to elect a female for vice chair, which it is a weird law because it's weird with our pride community. I get it. But that's something Destiny said she'd look at trying to change.
Yeah, I think we need to change. It's time to kind of update that.
Tim, you can go. We'll clear up here.
Yeah.
And thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Tim. I appreciate you.
I'll see you at 3 today.
Yeah, thank you for your bravery, Corinne. I appreciate you. Keep moving. We're supporting you. Whatever happens, update us on the next show.
Yes, we'll do. Thank you, Tim. I appreciate your support.
All right, bye.
Yeah, thanks for being here. It means a lot. So, Corinne, you could have been vice.
Yeah, which would have been, and who knows,
and
maybe,
seems like you and Chad have different skills and talents. So that could have been a really great fit. But we were denied that chance of ever happening because of the gatekeeping.
And maybe that's something that we fix for next time.
I would love whoever's chair. That'd be one of the first things they look at is fixing that Democratic handbook, changing some of these systems so we can get more people at the table so we can save our state from extremism.
Yep.
And you and I and Tim and Scott, we're not going anywhere. We're going to keep shining a light on the shady, whether that be shady Democrats, shady Republicans, shady people. And we're going to keep shining a light on the good. And the good can come from any political party as well. We are not designated a certain political party. We are people. We are here for the people of this country to unite. I'm just so proud to be your friend. I'm really thankful you do Project Next with us.
Me too.
Every day I'm happy. Every day I'm happy you do this.
We have a lot of fun. And I do need to jump off here, Sarah. But I want to thank you for us putting together this show. It was timely. We're going to be back next week. We're going to do a Plots and Politics episode.
When did we say we wanted to do it? Did we pick a day? I can't remember.
We picked Monday.
Monday at what time?
Let me see.
I can't remember. I got to write it down.
You're good. 1:00 on Monday.
Okay. So Monday at 1, Plots and Politics, episode 3, following up on the real history of
Reconstruction, Jim Crow.
because a lot of it's been watered
voting
down.
rights.
And it's just plain lies.
Yeah, and if you go check those episodes out, the videos are on our YouTube, which is Project Next Movement, all one word. You can also listen to it wherever you get podcasts.
And then today at 3, Tim and I are going to be interviewing the final of the 4 Indiana State Dem chair candidates, Derek Camp. I'm thankful that he made time for us because
me too.
I really want to know. I don't know him at all. I've never talked to him. He's the one I know the least. So I really want to ask him some questions and find out his plans. If he wins, what's he going to do with this party? And whoever wins, we're not going anywhere. We will be shining a light on their actions because this affects our lives. It affects your life up in Northern Indiana, it affects all of our lives down here in Southern Indiana and everybody in between. And we're worth it to have freedom.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, okay. I so appreciate you, Sarah. I'm so glad to be your friend and
you're amazing.
You are too.
Amazing. And
thanks for listening, everybody. Check out any of our podcasts. You can also check out Project Next Media on Substack. If you're able to check out any of our podcasts, just subscribe and leave a review. That's how that
helps a lot. Please text, please share, text this to a friend, share. We are definitely getting the word out. We're getting thousands and thousands of views per episode. And Tim added it up. We've had 250,000 views since we started.
That's so cool. We've only been doing this like a month, y'all. This is awesome.
Keep growing. And we're going to get the word out and we're going to save and unite. And it's great. When you're depressed, tune into us. We are work with us, join us. Let's do this. All right. 100%. Love you, girl. See you soon.
Love you. Bye.
Bye.